Hello, it's T. The, I don't know. I am clearly the hate campaign coordinator. Uh, Scientology, the way that they defend themselves is they frame anyone who speaks negatively against them as people who hate religious liberty. So I'm going to take a few minutes today to describe the conference locally, Women's Health Naturally. And, I understand that the reason I don't post that much anymore is because it's sort of a losing battle in the sense of I can't, with my one voice, resist the wave of sort of amnesia around the cult locally, and I can't stick my neck out all the time. So I just do here and there. The reason that this is coming up now is because Women's Health Naturally, which is the conference that the Sufis run and manage, is really confusing to people in the sense that they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And so I'm just here to remind you, and you may not believe any words that come out of my mouth, but I'm trying to say them in the most honest way that I can. I was there at the table in the meetings as this whole thing was developed over time. And so let me tell you kind of the history. The first thing you need to understand is that the most important thing, and the reason that I believe that this group is a cult, is because to become an inner circle member, you take a vow of obedience to Dean. And I did that. I vowed to obey him. And I did that based on my belief that developed over time that he was divinely inspired and that he was a legitimate heir to a spiritual lineage. And that led to personal beliefs that he was tapped into something greater than I could ever imagine. It was a distinction. He was tapped into something, and my job was to obey him, even if it made no sense to me. And I can give you a zillion examples of how that operated and how it led me to disbelieve my own instincts, my own feelings, my own body over time. And I was in that group for 23 years. So here's how Women's Health naturally developed. From the beginning, mid-90s, they were interested in farming and herbal remedies and alternative medicine. So back in the, mid-late 90s, they started to create herbal medicines, right? Again, I don't have all this right, but the people who originally, started these projects all left the group. And I remember the specific moment where the current business owner of Dayanpur Herbals, I remember when she was suddenly instructed to take over the business. And again, this is an obedience thing. So like if Murshid, as we call him, suddenly said, "Oh, you're going to do this," you go, "Okay." And even if it's something you've never done before. So this particular person is a very savvy business person, has had a lot of success early, but has been his personal servant since 97 is what I'm going to say. And he instructed her to take over the business. So she has no herbal medicine background, but she is a trustworthy servant of Dean. So whatever she does, here's the thing that's tricky, is that these people look autonomous, but they are not. They are occupied servants of Dean. So they operate autonomously in the world, it seems. But anything that they do, he can change, criticize, correct, direct. So when you're interacting with one of the cult members, you are interacting with him, and anything that you say can and will be reported back to him. So he stays in the know, but also hidden in the background. So what's so this conference developed, I think, out of the kind of savvy business person ness of the person who runs Diamond Herbals now. But you have to understand that everything is approved by him. So she might have come up with the idea. It's kind of like when I used to write songs for the group. I wrote the songs, but then he adapted them in whatever way he wanted to in the band, and then took credit for it. But in this case, he wants the women to be hidden in the background. So anyway, this idea for this conference developed, and we would meet. We had these managers meetings above the coffee shop. They were 3 hours every single Monday, and I was in them because I was the food manager, and that's where the idea was budded. Because what you do when you're a manager with the Sufis, every week you go to this long manager meeting where Dean presides, and you write this report of all the details of all the things that you've been doing related, so that there's sort of a community accountability. And that's where, I just want to talk about boundaries for a second, because personal, spiritual, business, organizational matters are all smudged together, and all of it is his business, because as his servant and devotee, he owns you. And that is not an exaggeration. To the point, I've said this before in many other videos, but to the point where I kind of learned to even mitigate my own personal tastes and behaviors according to his likes and dislikes. It was a deep wound. So anyway, so they've developed this thing over time. And the thing that keeps popping into my brain is even that little logo. I remember that being presented, and him, changing the shape of the woman's curves. It's like he is editing every single piece. So again, it's not like the leaders from the group are not using their brains, but he has ownership over all of their decisions, which is, to me, just a fundamental human rights violation. It's not a religious freedom issue. But at the time, of course, I was deeply embedded and believed. So I thought I was part of something that was going to change everything. But what people don't know is that this women's health conference is micromanaged by a dude. And, there of course, there's issues with like being anti-vax and all kinds of stuff. There's that. But the biggest thing is that he's running it. And since I left the group in 2020, as I've said before, I've learned that he has groomed women and had sexual relationships with women who are his followers, which is not illegal in Illinois, but is in other places. And, it's deeply unethical, of course, and hurts people deeply. But I just want you to know that that's what's micromanaging everything. And what's tricky is that it's all hidden. So if you went to one of the organizers who's a Sufi, and first of all, they're going to say that everything that I'm saying is my own personal interest, or like, I don't know, me making it about myself, or they have to dismiss what I'm saying, which I understand because I did that also when I was in the group. They are 100% invested in being in that system being fine, because they do believe that he is divinely inspired and that anything he does or says is from God. It's rough. It's a trap. So anyway, the reason this has happened is because a local organization I saw was sponsoring the group. And even last year, I want to say that I found the flyers for this event in Cristados. And Cristados is a very big supporter of, let me just say, my work, and they believe survivors. And they didn't know that it was cult related. And that's what's so masterful about it, is that it's hidden and secretive. So when I saw that this organization that I am a part of, or a proponent of, has sponsored this event, I realized that they probably just didn't know, because what's happening as we get farther and farther away from 5 years ago when these stories first came out, when everyone was like, oh my God, there's plenty of people who are still committed to not supporting the businesses. But, when it comes to the nonprofit and comes to this conference, it's like, it's very hard to resist and see through it. It's all the power structures are hidden. The abuse is hidden. The hierarchy is hidden. Dean is hidden. And then, who's not for natural women's health? I mean, of course you're going to support that. So that and the nonprofit serve to normalize and make it all okay, and to hide what's actually going on behind the scenes, which is that you have a predatory man with deployable agents who are servants, who are vowed to obey him against their own best interests. And that's the reality of what's going on behind there. So, and it's also, it's never explicit that there are recruitment tools, but these are also recruitment tools, because what happens is, if the right combination of a vulnerable person it's like people are drawn in through these events, and they will deny that they recruit, but the entire system is set up to draw people in like bees to honey. And that is something that we talked about all the time. It's like, why wouldn't somebody want this? Anyway, it's tricky. It's a confusing, befuddled thing, which if you pick up a book about cults, you'll be like, oh, that's what that is. So that's the whole story. And I want to offer that to the people because there are many, 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 many people around here who are just like, isn't it just rumors? Like, what's the matter with that tea guy? I'm trying to just have my own little peaceful life, plants, lake, and it's recovery is hard. Finding my voice is hard, and I don't want to walk around being in a fight with everybody. But I also want people when something that I'm involved with is sort of touched by this, or sort of, I will let people know. And the way that I approach it is sort of like, hey, I'd like to offer you my what I experienced and what I know about what's going on here, if you're interested. I don't go around being like, hey, you shouldn't do that. I don't. I ask, and if somebody wants to hear it, I offer my experience. And I know people who still go to the businesses, and I don't cut them out of my life. If it comes up, I'll ask, but I know people who still go to that coffee shop. And I'm not on there telling them what they should or shouldn't do. I'm just letting them know what I know, which is my way of constructing my life around principles of consent, which is something that does not exist in that group. There is no consent. There is the fantasy of having taken a vow of obedience of my own free will, but then my free will is gone. And that's all. I hope that's helpful. And again, if anybody wants to ask me more questions, they can. And if you don't believe me about some of the things I'm saying, I can probably get you in touch with some other people who are not willing. Let me put it this way. They don't want to put their faces on a video, but they will talk to you one-on-one and tell you their experiences. So that's all. Love you. Bye.